We're being joined by Dr. Abdulrahman Hamisu, who is a political scientist. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamisu, for joining us this morning. Good morning to you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
All righty then. Now, from a political strategy perspective, when you hear of the composition of this campaign council, what does it tell you about how the APC intends to approach the 2027 election?
Well, how the APC intend to approach the 2027 election is already in public domain, except if they are going back to the drawing board to strategize. What happened in Osun State is a testament to the fact that big names, governors, and what have you don't win an election. It is the people that decide who to choose. So we have a penchant for big names in Africa. By the time election is coming, instead of allowing state governors to concentrate in serving their people, they become returning officer, reducing themselves to the local government of that state. So you have a situation whereby governors, ministers will be manning states. In the case of presidential election, for gubernatorial elections, state governors are known to man local governments, each of the local government, and that has not really translated to electoral victory for persons that have not really performed in office or that people know to be mean, and people know that if they win election, their interest will not be served.
Well, talking about some of the controversies so far, there's been a lot of criticism, with some of the names on the list. For example, the DG Yari, who is already throwing fireworks, saying APC would definitely win in 2027 and even remain in power beyond 2031. What should we make of that level of confidence? Does it reflect the APC's actual strength, or do you think it's just making a political statement?
I think Senator Yari is a post-student of history. I'm sure he's only justifying his position so that he will not sound tough. If there is any political party that traumatized Nigerians, it should be PDP. And where is PDP today? We are told that the PDP is a moving train. It's either you jump in or you jump out. We're equally told that the PDP was a moving train, that if you stand on its way, it will crush you. We're told that the PDP was going to rule Nigeria for 60 years, not knowing that they were saying that they were going to rule Nigeria for 60 years. There is no saying the fact that Nigerian politicians have a disdain for the masses who constitute the voting majority. They make such claims because they think that they could manipulate the process and get away with it free. But Oshun proved to be an exception. We've seen that happen in a host of other places, for instance, in Bauchi State, in Kano, and several others where the people voted and they protected their vote. So if I were Senator Yari, I would be a bit circumspective. I would be a bit sober, and I would take into consideration the plight of Nigerians, the crying of Nigerians, so that you approach Nigerians from the point of persuasion, not from the point of the language of force or the language of intimidation. PDP did worse than that. And where is PDP today? PDP was chased out of power after 16 years instead of the 60 years they were bragging about. So that is why I said it's a poor student of history. You should go back to history.
Well, Atiku Abubakar has challenged President Bola Tinubu to a presidential debate. And there's a lot of political conversation and exchange going on at the moment. You've already seen how the polity is heating up ahead of 2027. Recently at the Nigerian Bar Association conference in Port Harcourt, we saw some of the presidential candidates, and in fact, the vice presidential candidate of the ADC, Rotimi Amechi, all sharing ideas on the issues around economy, security, and what have you. Now that Atiku has said, look, if Mr. President is not willing to participate in a debate, that he himself might not be, participating in. So, what do you make of, that position by Atiku Abubakar?
Well, if I were Atiku Abubakar, I will still participate because it's about selling your programs. It's not coming to govern Tinubu. It's coming to govern Nigerians. And if Tinubu want to participate, it will be an added advantage because it will give Nigerians the opportunity to compare and contrast. But if that is not the case, I would say and I would advise that whether President Tinubu is there or not, Atiku should still give us his manifesto because ultimately it shows some level of respect, modicum of respect for Nigerians, and it shows that he's looking up to Nigerian voters to vote him into power. But again, if President Bola Tinubu love Nigeria and Nigerians, he should participate because it will give Nigerians the opportunity to listen to him and to interrogate both of them in terms of what they're putting on the table. And then they could make their final decision based on what the two have presented. Nevertheless, if the president failed to show up, that does not mean that Atiku should not respect Nigerians if they wanted him to talk to them so that they're able to understand him and make decisions based on what he's going to present to Nigerians.
Now, let's go back to that list that was put out, where in fact the APC have come out to say, look, they're not going to withdraw the list, despite some of the concerns that have been raised for some of the people in that list. For instance, the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, who is facing allegations of financial impropriety. Of course, she was suspended by the president in January 2024 after a memo surfaced in which she reportedly directed the transfer of approximately 585 million in public funds. The EFCC investigated the matter at the time, and now she's been named director of women mobilization. Now, when you, and amongst other names as well, there's Ngozi Olejeme, who is facing an active money laundering case. Now, in constituting a campaign council, you're the political scientist. Do you think it should just be based on the experience of these individuals to mobilize voters? Or do you also think there should be some attention paid on their credibility in the first place?
Beyond their capacity to mobilize and beyond their credibility, I think integrity is equally very important. There is no way Mr. President will convince us that his fight against corruption is not selective if these individuals that have been accused, whose case seems to be a kind of being delayed, now finding themselves into the Presidential Council. It seems like a sort of rehabilitation. This is happening because the politicians in Nigeria feels that we have a very, very short memory. I think that is what late Odumegu Ojukwu in his book, Because I'm Involved, referred to as collective amnesia. We move forward quickly, especially when when fights against corruption is being dramatized and a lot of dramas are introduced into them, and then we go on to forget about others while celebrating the prosecution of others. For instance, people like Adi Sirika are still facing corruption charges. People like the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Malami. And this is why people are beginning to feel that it was because they are not in the camp of Mr. President, or because they must have offended him before the president was elected into office. And those that for him, those that work for him are always shielded. And this is bad for our democracy, is bad for our reputation as a country, is bad for our integrity as a people, is bad for business because when you talk about the fight against corruption, which ought to be the primary focus of government and governance, because without fighting corruption, I bet you the intended beneficiaries of government policies will be shortchanged. Just imagine a Betta Edu that's supposed to use our ministry to alleviate poverty has been alleged to siphon money, and up to now the lady that raised the alarm in the person of Alima Shehu is still crying that she has been unjustly removed from office after blowing the whistle, and then our job has not been restored, our name has not been cleared, And then the same person is now finding herself as director of women mobilization. Even if she can mobilize the entire universe, propriety and dignity dictates that such a person shouldn't be included until she is finally cleared either by the court or by the EFCC that started the investigation. But what we are seeing is an attempt to roll her into the political process again. And we know that the entire brouhaha surrounding the presidential council is because of two things. One, the prestige it confers on the members, and secondly, because they know that majority of those that are always at the presidential campaign council usually make it either as ministers or DGs or whatever. So the fight will be fierce. But again, anybody can do the job, provided you have the integrity and the confidence of the people.
What we are also seeing, in fact, to a major concern that Nigerians are raising, we're seeing some current public office holders. For instance, the head of the Nigeria Revenue Service is talking about Zach Adedeji. He's going to be playing a prominent role. In fact, his department is fundraising. Tanimu Yakubu, who is the DG of the Budget Office, is going to be playing a finance-related role as well. When you look at it, I mean, these are agencies that are meant to serve the generality of the Nigerian public. While there's no law that says they are not, prohibited from being appointed as part of these councils, optics-wise, and in terms of the roles that they occupy, the position that they occupy, and what Nigerians expect from them, do you really think it was the right call to put them in this particular campaign council list?
Well, if you say Tenumo Yakubu is part of it, I won't have a problem with that because debt management office is not controlling our finances or resources. But to have somebody like Zach there, to have, for instance, say Minister of Finance, or to have a TVN governor, that raises a lot of questions, especially the head of Nigeria Revenue Service, because you look at it, Dr. Tenumu Kurufi, for instance, as the head of a debt management office, we're not using
budget
debt
office.
to fight financing. Budget office, I mean.
Yes.
Budget, yeah, budget office. So budget office is quite different from the institution that is generating our funds. And don't be mistaken. Nigerian elections are cash driven, and it is not an error of judgment that such a person has been included. So the presidency knows exactly what it is doing, and it will be foolhardy of anybody to just keep quiet. If our elections are driven by issues, by commitment to changes that are positive, that will impact lives and people, then we don't have any issue about who becomes what in the presidential campaign council. But when you have people that ought to stand above board, that ought to ensure that the confidence in the process is really enhanced, now becoming part of the process, then it calls for vigilance and questioning. So I take exception to the fact that it has never been done before, that the sitting chairman of our revenue service, whatever name it is being called before, now is part of the presidential campaign council. So propriety, honesty and integrity, transparency would dictate that such a person should not be included. But here we are saying it from those that are criticizing others. President Bola Tinubu since 1990s has been at the forefront of criticizing almost all the government in this country, especially if they are not in the same party. And we expected him to stay above board, to do what is right. But here we are.
If you look at that list, it's about quite a long list of 108 members on that list of the APC 2027 Presidential Campaign Council. You have number one on that list. The president himself is the chairman of the council. And you have the vice president as the vice chairman one. You have the APC National Party Chairman as Vice Chairman too. And then you have Senator Abdulaziz Yari as the Director General of the campaign. Now, I'm going to come to Abdulaziz Yari. I know you are aware of some of the issues around him as to the recent acquiring of that power plant now. But then, coming to the president, whether he's running to be re-elected in office, he still has the country to run until he's either re-elected or a new person is being sworn in as the president. But when you have the president himself taking the office of chairman of his own campaign, what time is he going to have to run the country before he either hands over or continue with the race?
Well, it is unfortunate that up to now we've not separated running for office and running governance in this country. Everything is merged into one.
Right.
In advanced democracies, and even countries that are serious, let us even come to Rwanda here and other places. They try to separate the apparatus of running for re-election or for election with governance. But ours is merged together for some obvious reasons. As I said earlier on, it is as a result of two main factors. Most of them are afraid of betrayers. The other thing again is that they want to be in charge of the resources because it's a war chest, and God knows how many billions will be or trillions that will be shared from the constitution of this council to the last day INEC will eventually announce the winners. So governance usually suffer in Nigeria when there is election, whether it is local government election, whether it is a state or whatever. Just look at what happened in Eshu State. Governors abandoning their states, and they will tell you that no matter what happened, they have lieutenants that are really taking care of the business of governance. But we all know that no commissioner can move an inch without the approval of the governor. No councillor can say anything without the chairman. So whether we like it or not, we always, and that is why once we're talking, even some persons that want to go back to school, business people, they will tell you once it is election years in Nigeria, you just have to know that governance will not really effectively.
But should that be the case? Should that be the case that because elections are coming, that the people of Nigeria should just sit back and not be governed?
That is exactly my point. That is an aberration, and it is peculiar to us in this country because of the nature of our politics.
How can we change that? How can we move away from that to whether you're running for it to be re-elected or not? Governance must still take its place. How can we change that?
Well, when we learn to trust one another, and when we know that our work speaks for us, the problem has always been that majority of us that used to come up with all of these bogus campaign council, whatever, is because we have this belief that our strategy can win election for us instead of connecting with the people. So if you look at campaigns elsewhere, the candidate connect with the people and genuinely they speak the language of the people, they identify the plight of the people, and they provide solution. In our own case, they will tell us, we will rule you for 30 years, we will rule you. It's a language of force. It's a language that tells you that they are floating. It's a language that tells you that they don't even have anything to show other than power or resources that they want to flout before the people. And this is an aberration. So, and the Constitution has not even taken care of that. We know the constitution of every country reflects the mindset of the elites. In the case of Nigeria, our constitution is somehow left with some lacuna so that it can be exploited. What happens if we agree that, okay, we should separate politics from governance, and if you want to go into presidential campaign council, relinquish your post. For instance, relinquish your post. Let the politicians do their thing. Let the technocrats do their things. Let those that are in governance do that. And that is one of the innovative stuff that President Muhammadu Buhari brought that equally assisted Nigeria while he was living. Majority of the senators, majority of the DGs of organizations, majority of the ministers wanted to go and run for elected positions in their various constituencies. But there was a caveat that if you want to do that, you have to do what? You have to relinquish your position.
Right.
And a lot of them refuse to go. And I think that this government did something like that. There are persons that wanted to aspire to govern their state. They wanted to become governors, but because they were required to relinquish their position, they couldn't go. So these are the kind of reforms I want to see. If you want to be part of the Presidential Campaign Council as the revenue officer #1 of Nigeria, relinquish your post. Then we know that we are separating politics with governance.
Right. But then, before we let you go, right, elections are around the corner. And elections do not happen only on election day. It is a build-up, it's a process. Before you get to the polls on the set day, this time January 16th, there's a process that leads to that day. And this is one of the process. So when you have members who are actively still in government, who should be running the country, now actively in one party and participating in the campaigns to make that party to run and be re-elected now, as this case is a re-election that the APC is seeking now, how do the Nigerian people have guarantee that the elections will be credible in the first place and to be free? When you have those who should make sure that the elections are free and fair are in one party and are actively participating in making sure that that party come back into power?
Well, we all know that election is about protection of one's interest. But again, the interest of the collective that is known as APC should not be generalized as the interest of all Nigerians. After all, we are up to 230 million Nigerians, and they are just a handful of people. We're not saying they should not protect their interests, but they should do it transparently. Manipulation of elections don't even start from the day the ban to campaign is lifted. It starts all the way from the primaries to the politics in INEC, the list that is rejected by political parties during the primaries, and the list that has been accepted for submission and all that. But again, the ruling party has this moral responsibility. And when I say moral responsibility, I say it with all sense of responsibility and patriotism to do things that will not undermine the credibility of the process, but to enhance the credibility of the process. Most importantly, the problems we create while gunning for office usually confront us at the end of it. And that is why some persons that armed some persons rather, to snatch ballot box will have to confront insecurity at the end of the elections, because after the elections are over, they no longer service these young men they give the guns to, and these young men turn the gun into their business stuff by kidnapping, by stealing, by robbing, and so on and so forth. So, if we want to keep the dichotomy strong in such a way that will be respected and everybody can talk about fair play, we need to do something in which is that it's either those that are holding public offices are excluded from any presidential campaign council or whatever council that politicians will put in place that are prosecuting election at the state level or federal level, or that anybody that is interested in joining any presidential council should resign his or her appointment.
All right.
This way, the dichotomy will be established and people will respect us, and they will not see us as taking advantage of the institution of governance to support a particular candidate. And that is what we normally refer to as incumbency factor, where state resources, apparatuses are deployed to securing the mandate of one man that can dispense patronage. And that is the bane of our politics and the corruption we see in governance.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdulrahman Hamisu, for your time on the program today. We appreciate your time and all that you've contributed to this topic. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. I guess that's where we'll leave the conversation this morning. But of course, for now, we'll leave it for here. But your comments and your thoughts as regards having active government officials on APC campaign council. You've heard Dr. Hamisu. If you want to be active and run, then you have to let go of the office that you occupy and put your whole attention into making sure that your principal comes back into office. But it feels like a double standard. Well, we'll leave it here. Your thoughts are very much welcome. Let us know your thoughts via the phone line displayed on the screen on our live broadcast or